Uh, Hello, world. This is Stephen Lurie, your host with B2B Rocks. Um, Today is November 17th. Our guest today is Roni Sharabi. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She's with MENAco, which is her nonprofit that she works with. Before I introduce Ronnie, I just wanted to take a moment to share something with you out there that I found something really interesting, very informative today. So, this is a document provided by Balderton Capital. So, it's something you can go on and look at. I'll put the link in our chat room. Um, so this is from Balderton Capital, and this is a founder's guide to B2B sales. Um, Really interesting document. So they go over and outline B2B sales, but much more than that, actually. They talk about B2B sales, they talk about building a channel, managing a sales team, how to renew and expand clients, but also the marketing, the partnering, the customer success aspects of this. So, two thoughts on this, or actually, I have quite a few thoughts on this. But one is, I don't think this is a founder's guide. I think anybody working on the revenue side, so that's marketing, sales, customer success, in B2B, in SaaS, in entrepreneurship, you should definitely be. You should take a moment and read through this. The concepts are really well explained, and it's very simple, and it's just a great primer. And anything that you're not familiar with, you should go back and spend more time looking at. The second thing is Balderton Capital. They have a fellow there who is one of their venture capitalists. He's a kind of a consultant with them as well, called Dave Kellogg. Dave Kellogg has his blog, Kellblog. So Dave writes quite a bit on his blog and is a big speaker on the B2B SaaS entrepreneurship circuit. So it's just take a moment if you can and check out this, because it's really interesting. It's great reading. And the last thing I would say is that if you work in sales or marketing or customer success and you read this, you should question your manager on this stuff. And if your manager works in B2B, SaaS, or entrepreneurship, they should be familiar with this as well. Um, with that, I'd like to bring on our guest. Hopefully, this will work here. Hold on. Let me just get everything set up. Let me just bring on my guest. This always takes me a little bit longer here. I'm going to have Roni Sharabi. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And let me make sure that her audio is on, because I always forget to turn on the audio. So hopefully everything's going. Hello, Roni. How are you?
I'm great. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Hopefully our audience hears you. Uh,
Please
Hey,
check
someone said hi,
if
Ronnie. So I think, can we hear? Let me just type something. Can we hear Ronnie before we go on?
hello. Does everyone hears me?
Yes. Okay. Looks like we can hear you. Okay.
Great.
Um. Well, listen. Thank you for taking time out here today. Really interested. You work in technology.
hmm
And in your spare time, now people typically working in technology don't have too much spare time, but in your spare time, along with a colleague, you started a nonprofit called MENAco, right?
Yes.
Okay,
hmm
great. So I think it's really cool what MENAco is working on. So could you tell us a little bit about MENAco? Tell us about what you're doing.
Of course. So MENAco is a network platform for women entrepreneurs in the Middle East and North Africa. Um, it is based on mostly online activity, a networking session online, webinars, and recently also a mentoring program for early stage entrepreneurs or even women who have an idea and not even established still um, their first product or something like that, and they want to search and to learn about the entrepreneurial path, entrepreneurial life, to gain some tools. So this is the program that we designed for them.
Okay.
And a question about a question that you didn't ask, but you asked before, my name. So it actually pronounced Sharabi.
All right.
Sharab is a place in Yemen. My family originally from there, so to represent my Yemenite roots, and it's Sharabi with Ain.
Abi. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I can find. I just want to say that in defense of myself, although I'm not good at pronunciation, I do know where
No.
I do know where Yemen is on a map. I can't find Yemen on a map, so and I know it's a tough time in Yemen right now. I think it's been
Yeah,
a tough time in the last 10 years, but it's a tough time. We talk about
almost.
all these other countries, but Yemen often gets forgotten. So where did the idea come from for MENAco? Why did you start this organization with your co-founder?
Um, I think we have to go back a bit more than the first time we thought about MENAco,
Hmm.
because it was a long ride to creating MENAco. Me and my colleague come from different background, but I come from education, and I worked a lot with struggle youth, and that doesn't have all like the privilege to go and to learn everything they want and to assimilate in the tech industry in general. And so while I was a teacher in this kind of schools, I understand that if no one brings technology to them, like the state doesn't does it, the traditional education don't do it. So I decided to bring this subject to them, but it wasn't my profession. So at first, I had to go and learn it, and I did my full stack developer diploma. And then, while I was like learning it, I actually did it in Paris, but I discovered a whole new world that I didn't know about before, and like an entire ecosystem and language even that was new to me to discover. and and then I was like traveling and attending to like webinars and meetups and conferences like on a daily basis just to get to know the people. And where I am based, which is in Tel Aviv, the ecosystem and the meetup and the community are very developed.
Hmm.
And in one meeting, that one conference that was about the Palestinian ecosystem, I met my partner to fit, and like we said, like we wish to bring it to a more regional aspect, to to bring like a platform like that also to women who not necessarily lives in a very developed ecosystem. And because once we were starting to investigate um, the obstacle that women face while when they want to create a business, networking was one of the first obstacle they tackle, because normally women not necessarily use their amicable relationship, personal relationship to their own like professional benefit. So this is why we started to talk about it, and then it took several of months to understand what we really want to do and how we will do it, um, and this is how MENAco started. From that meeting and from our own experience of how this community helped us at the end of the day to get to where we are, and how we can bring this kind of tools, this kind of support to other ecosystem in the region, to communicate between region, to try to have an alternative way of communication that maybe specifically in our region not necessarily always happen because of politics, borders, and all of the problem that you heard about in MENA region.
Yeah, it's interesting. Francis, there's an American author and philosopher called Francis Fukuyama, and he wrote a
Mhm,
book called The End of History. And he
mhm,
said after the Cold War that capitalism and would help break down borders, and that we would become a global community through free trade. That hasn't happened, but in a way, that hasn't happened. We're still far from that. But in a way, what MENAco is focusing on by trying to help young women entrepreneurs throughout the MENAco region, it's kind of an expression of that vision. So that's really interesting.
Mhm.
Why women? Why specifically women and not men? I mean, maybe I have a different. Men need help too. So why women?
First of all, completely.
Yeah,
Um, Only because the percentage of women were so low,
yeah,
and I worked in also in an organization that called Queen Bee, where we teach girls how to code. So at that time, it was my knowledge on this underrepresented population was quite vast. So it was something that I wanted to keep on focusing on, and and in all of the articles that we read, it seems like the first population that we should focus on.
hmm
And also, there is a lot of other projects that exist already for young entrepreneurs in the MENA region, accelerators, incubators, that you can see new generation of entrepreneurs, men and women who comes there. But you will see that in all of these new projects that there is, the numbers of women is really, really low.
yeah,
We see it because a lot of them like talk to us like, "Hey, do you have someone?" Because they don't manage to recruit any uh, startup led by women.
yeah.
Um, but in another subject, like the percentage of women in STEM field who finish the universities in the MENA region is much higher than the Western world, and it's much higher than the men who
Yeah.
finish STEM. So there is like a population who is underrepresented in many levels,
Yeah.
and so we thought to focus on that. And I read in an article long time ago, not long time ago, that um, we uh, w- we will gain around $2 billion if we will only like uh,
Add women.
increase in 1 or 2% the amount of business led by women in the MENA region. Like there is so much also financial
Yeah.
benefit for it, because there are, we will have less unemployment in that area, and also a lot of the startups that women are focused on are startup that helps the community around them, the city, the country, um, ecological.
I
Uh,
mean, there's a lot of benefits. I think I know what you're talking about. That the underrepresentation of women and minorities holds back GDP.
mhm.
It also holds back the rate of innovation. So the more that you have a diverse group contributing to innovation, the more innovation you have, and you get great solutions. So it's kind of like giving different eyes to think. That's great. What are specific obstacles that women face? You mentioned networking, that they tend not to use their networks for business, for financial gain. What are other
Mhm.
obstacles that women face?
Um, uh, I just want to add that for also for networking, if we're talking about the MENA region, which are more traditional countries,
Yes.
in that sense. So you will see less women go to conferences, webinars, even on I'm not talking on the stage, but I'm
Yeah.
even as a participant. So it's also something that like um, uh, it's also another
A
aspect
barrier.
of the networking, a
Yeah.
barrier for them. And secondly, finance. Um, Only like very small amount from VCs and from angels go to led business by women
Mhm.
goes to them. It's much harder for them to recruit from multiple reasons, not because only for their gender, but sometimes the subject, because if there are more male and men in the VCs or angels, they not necessarily understand some of the product that women are presenting and want to do in their startup, because sometimes it tackles like subject or problem that are not,
Yeah.
they cannot relate to. There is a good story. I'm not sure it's it's good for the hour that we are now, but there is the really known story about the founder of Brayola, which was an online shopping store
Right.
that helps you choose your bra according AI. Like they learn your body, your favorite. You put all the data of the bras that you already
Sure.
purchase and everything. And when she went from VCs to this, they say they don't understand what's the problem. Go and buy a bra. Like they didn't know the female experience in that. And until she used the, she used a condom for them to understand how much intimate and unpleasant it for a woman to to try a bra and people touching you. And once she used that, the male in the VC started to understand it. So, a lot of
Yeah,
a lot of
a
obstacles.
lot of
So
incomprehension. A lot of
yeah,
incomprehension. Well, I think the point you bring up about GDP, adding to GDP and human
mhm,
capital. This summer I got an opportunity to speak with someone at Zoho, and Zoho is of course a fabulously successful company in India, and they have a program where they work with high school dropouts,
mm,
men and women, and they test them for certain skills, and then and if they have those skills, they put them in a program to learn to do programming and marketing, and then they have them work with a product, and they actually grow them and teach them in technical product marketing roles. And I just think that's great, and I think it's kind of a similar product, or I mean, a similar concept of what you're doing there. So you're focused. You guys focus more on the entrepreneurship or on the technicals?
so we're more focused on the entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
but we are in the entrepreneurial world. We are focused on women who has a tech product
Okay.
or digital product. Let's say it like that.
Okay.
And w- because we do think it's a more sustainable and not sustainable, but like a business that can scale, like a scale in a bigger, in a
Something.
bigger.
Yeah. Okay. It can go bigger.
It can go bigger than like if you own like now a store
Yeah.
or something like that. Um, and also, again, sometimes like in some countries or some cultures, you won't see a woman managing a store. It's not common, but in the tech industry there is much more flexibilities for also breaking some glass ceiling in this kind of traditional countries and
But
societies.
I think that's if it's a website online, you can be anybody behind the website. It doesn't really
Hmm.
matter. It's not like a store where maybe being a woman, maybe your husband doesn't want you to be in a store by yourself. If it's on a
Hmm.
website, it can be a thing. What about so tech and thing. So how about have, so what are the how many workshops have you done? You mentioned having done workshops or having
Ooh.
done groups. You said you were accepting applications right now. How many times have you gone through the cycle of accepting applications?
So let's separate. Like we did at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
we're building MENAco slowly now.
Oh,
And at the beginning, it was very important us to have, first of all, like a really core or a big core of women from several of like from a diverse portfolio, from
okay.
like a diverse like countries background and everything.
Okay.
So we were focusing on them, and we did like networking session for them, and workshops. I
Mm-hmm.
don't remember the number, but quite a lot.
Okay.
Um, and that's surrounding even like let's get to know each other and let's get to know the ecosystem, what works there, what didn't work there. But it was for well established entrepreneurs already.
Okay.
After a few years, like when we had this and we had like this core member, we decided to grow and to seek for the younger entrepreneur, not by age younger, but early stage entrepreneur, let's call it like this.
Mm-hmm.
And after like talking with them, understanding their problems and try to like understanding the challenges and what they need in order to like help them in their journey. So we understood that like a mentoring program can really help them because for now a lot of the programs that exist require a lot of bureaucracy, and sometimes are not suitable for someone who want to start in small scale and then grow.
Okay.
And that's one thing that why we started this program. Secondly, a lot of the programs are people that are not necessarily from the region, and sometimes you want to talk to someone who went through the bureaucracy here and not in Europe, even though they are both difficult, but in other ways. Or they want to, or someone that understand the audience, or someone understand the market here. So this was also another reason why we created it.
Hmm.
And the third one is like, again, women for women, like women for women. So it was very important for us because, again, sometimes when you go to like a mentoring program that is not necessarily for the designed for you, you're not necessarily going to meet someone who had the same struggle. And yes, there is some struggles and challenges that women entrepreneurs are having that men will never have, and vice versa. But still, there is a difference
Yeah.
sometimes, and we want to tackle these challenges, and this is why we created it. And we had a first batch was really empowering and powerful and meaningful for them. We had from like 6 different countries mentees, and also like from 4 different countries the mentors. So
Yeah.
around we had like 7 different countries from all over, from North Africa and from the Middle East. They like really at the end of the day they were talking about the fact that they could share with someone the struggle and the dilemma that they had, that they couldn't discuss it with anyone else, like anyone, like they really felt like a deep understanding of their journey, and they couldn't like really take some tips and or really consult with them, because when someone really understands you, it can give you a better tip and better insights, or some direction that they couldn't get from other programs. So it's a niche what we chose, because really the entrepreneurs in general in the Middle East not that big in the tech industry, so
Well,
women are even less. But we think it's a really good investment niche that
yeah.
will grow. Like you can't stop innovation and you can't stop the progress. So
Yeah, that's great.
uh,
I think that's one of the things you mentioned about is that working in technology provides women opportunities that they couldn't have in other industries. And that's one of the great things about entrepreneurship and what we've seen with tech entrepreneurship is around the world, we've seen little pockets of entrepreneurs, people with very different backgrounds who think differently, who maybe have different religious backgrounds and different cultures and customs, and yet we share similar ideas and similar concepts about, for example, technology, and we talk about marketing and sales and use some of the same metrics and KPIs to measure our business. So I think
mhm,
that's great. And some of these women who you may be able to help someday, today maybe they're looking to start a business, but tomorrow they may become community leaders or community actors. And so
mhm,
that empowerment may start with technology, but can carry over into, or business, but can carry over into other aspects. So, did I understand correctly? If you can, you prefer mentors that come from the Middle East region, um,
mhm.
and women mentors as well.
Yeah,
That's a very
this is
small.
our
That's a very small group, isn't it?
yes, but a very quality one,
Very high quality. Okay.
very high quality.
Okay.
If you can make it here, you can make it everywhere. It's not New York.
It's
It's
not
only
New
the
York.
Middle East.
It's the Middle East and North Africa.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, can you talk about are there any stories that come to mind with like people that have been impacted by this and who have started a business? Can you think of something?
I actually think about like an interview we did 2 days ago.
Okay.
Maybe she's here with us in the audience.
I hope so. That would
She's
be cool.
she used to be an intern in MENAco,
Okay.
like when she was a student. and she helped us like with the social media a bit and everything and marketing. And now she finished her BA.
Hmm.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And she registered herself to our second batch of mentoring program, and she only have an idea and landing page.
Uh-huh.
She aims to help young adults after finish university to find their career path
Okay.
in like and that's all I can say. She has she has some technology behind it,
Okay.
and I think it's amazing. Like she didn't even grow as a member. She knew us as an intern
Okay.
for the summer, even not for a long time, but only that like opened her eyes for that path.
Yeah.
And and there is a lot of movement now in the education in the MENA region. So you have a lot of people who didn't finish or who are the first generation in their family for higher education,
Okay.
and they don't get the let's say a traditional or they don't have this knowledge because they are the first generation in academic. They don't have the knowledge of like, okay, what I do with this degree, or where do I go, or these all new fields of like
Yeah.
where you can work, because it's new. It's very very new. It's not like in most of the Western world. So I thought it was a really, really good idea. And I was very moved to see her name when she was applying. And of course, to re interview her. And I hope we're going to find her a match. And if someone hears us now and want to mentor her, please contact me.
Well, I
With
gotta.
sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I don't know how big our reach is in the Middle East and North Africa, but so
Ne-
for
Never
mentors.
mind. We will get also like if someone really
Yeah.
this story talk to him, we can also give her two mentors, one
Yeah.
from Europe and one from here.
It's funny because there's so many people in the Middle East and North Africa who are highly qualified as far as the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And there's just not the opportunity to use those skills. I know, like in France, where I'm at, we get a lot of resumes and CVs that come from North Africa.
Mm,
And they're really talented engineers and really skilled engineers. But there's just no work in Algeria, and then or Morocco, and then of course the challenge is when they have to have all the administration and immigration paperwork if they're able to do that in France and get that done. But if we can create more opportunities locally,
mhm.
that takes some of the pressure on those people to emigrate, and also it actually creates
True.
opportunities for our businesses as well. So it's a good idea. Um,
And it's straightened their communities, their surrounding, which is very, very, very important. You see places also here in the region that created a really stable ecosystem.
yeah,
It lifted all of the geographic area around them. For example, now a lot of even the entrepreneurs and the engineer are trials. They also a lot of them are immigrant, for example, to Dubai
mhm,
or Qatar, because there is a bit like the scene is a bit more developed.
yeah.
If we're talking in Morocco, so they have Rabat and Casablanca. So they are starting, and it's important because on a personal note, nobody wants to leave their home. It's usually not.
Yeah.
People want to stay around their family normally. A lot of them.
Yeah.
Depends.
So,
But I mean, it's not always a good experience to be an immigrant. It's a very hard experience. Um, and I think once there is an entrepreneurial ecosystem that is strong, that it's solid, that involve a lot of different a technology products that can create like an ecosystem, not only in one subject,
yeah.
and it really can build a better region, a better like alternative for the people that are here, that want to stay, that likes it here.
Well, it's interesting. Israel, of course, is a tech powerhouse for such a small country.
Hmm.
And but Israel, I know that Israel has felt, we talked about this before, Israel has felt the downturn a little bit in technology, and that I'm sure the employment market has gotten a little softer, but Israel has really low unemployment anyhow. So I
Hmm.
mean, I mean, the Middle East needs more human capital. It needs more room to grow. And maybe what we'll see, maybe Israel, thanks to your efforts in part, will be able to export some of these values and concepts. Because when you look at countries like India, it started in all the major cities, technology, and now there's talking about it spreading to the second tier cities. So it would be great to see that happen in Israel and Dubai and big cities like that, and then spread out also to the four corners of the Middle East and North Africa.
Mhm.
Um, so you're looking, are you, so you're accepting applications currently, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay,
we are
so it's
searching.
applications
Mhm.
for both mentorees and mentors for both groups?
Yeah, for mentees and mentors, you can all go to MENA.community. You will find everything, or if you can follow me, you can follow MENAco on LinkedIn. We will provide you all the information you need.
How do you, let me put in your Mina.community. Is
Mhm.
that dot community?
I
We
can
have our
send
little chat
you.
here. I want to put
Mm,
it in our chat.
I can send you here also the link in our chat. I
Here,
understand there is several of platform.
yeah, we've got this. Let me,
Great.
okay, good. That's great. And it's interesting because on the entrepreneurship side, what can happen in technology and with women. I know I spoke with women in technology. You and I we spoke about them before, and I've spoken with them, and they said since the downturn, the amount of women in STEM roles and programming roles in companies has actually decreased.
Mm,
So, I think it's really interesting that despite all the financial economic pressure and everybody's best efforts, that the role of, and so I think if women are going to do well, and if the world is going to benefit from women in technology, and I think women are going to have to start their own companies and hire their own women engineers and do a good part of this itself. um Warren Buffett, who was, or not Warren Buffett, I'm sorry, shoot, what was his name? There was a guy who was in charge of the US economy, Alan Greenspan, for a long time,
mm,
and he famously only hired women economists.
mhm.
And he was a man, and people were like, why do you always hire women economists? And he said, because basically I can hire an equivalent woman to an equivalent man, and I get a 20% discount for the woman. I can pay her less because of market dynamics, and typically because she's a woman, she'll work harder. um
True, true. What can I say? It's
yeah,
sad,
so
but it's true.
it's really not a very political thing to say, but he said
No.
basically I get a better employee who works harder. And that was his feeling about why he only hired women. And today we're talking about equal pay on a lot of developed economies, but there's still not
Yeah.
equal opportunity. um
Mhm.
Great. Are you working with any other organizations? Does MENAco work with any other organizations?
Yes, we work with a lot. It depends on the project.
Okay.
Sometimes, like, um, we also sometimes go and like share our knowledge for programs that are women and men. But we try to cooperate as much as we can. I think it's important. As I say, we specified in a niche, so it's quite easy for us to cooperate with them because we don't, like, we are a complementary community for other communities. Um, so there is no other community that specifies in what we are doing.
Hmm.
Um, for I 2 weeks ago, we did a workshop with the Palestinian internship program where we shared a workshop with them for their young adults that search for a job now in the area. We cooperated a long time ago with the Dana, which is an accelerator for female entrepreneur on specifically in the agriculture. They tackle like challenges in the ecological system here.
Hmm.
Um, with women of MENA in technology that are actually based in the state, but doing a lot of work and have a lot of base also in our region. Um, so yeah, so we cooperated a lot with Microsoft for Middle East. We cooperated with the
Great. What about financial support? Do you receive any financial support from any organizations, to Israel or anybody?
No, there it's definitely not a governmental.
No, no money.
Uh, no government. No, first of all, I want to clarify, it's a non-governmental platform.
Yeah,
We're not aspiring to have a governmental from anyone
yeah.
because it allow us to have the connection we are having, and it's very important for us and for our members. Um, so that's first of all. Secondly, we are searching for a long-term partnership with like with a company, but it has to be a company that has base here in the region and will benefit from um, having the connection to such a large entrepreneurs of the MENA region. I believe there are some because there's a lot of companies that are B2B and SaaS that are selling and wants to grow their market here in the region. But we are negotiating and we are open for any kind of suggestion.
Okay.
Yes.
So I wasn't suggesting that state was behind you, maybe, but I was just saying sometimes in other countries we can have a nonprofit, and the nonprofit will receive grants or money from the state just to fund its private things. So apparently that's not the case with you. Um, what about I don't want to be political, but is there any suspicion, because we mentioned the Middle East and North Africa, like the world in general, are very complicated places. And
Yes.
of course, there's a long history of antagonism or of conflict with Israel as well. So, is there any problem with this being in Israel? Or I mean, that you guys started in Israel? Are people suspicious of your motivation at all when you first meet them, or is that not a non-issue? That's something that I don't know.
No, it's definitely an issue. Of course, it will always be an issue until there will be
Yeah.
it's
That,
resolved. It
yeah.
will always be an issue.
Okay.
But again, and we worked really hard with the members that we had to make them feel it's a safe place for
Yeah.
them, that all identities are welcomed and respect,
Yeah.
and it's a professional network. And this is why it was really important for us not to have any governmental partnership. Again,
Yeah.
doesn't matter where from, just so people will feel so the women will feel comfortable and won't have like any reservation or conflict with what they want to. But again, some decided that they will support from afar,
Hmm.
and I respect that. And there is no one that we have any dispute with, but some of them like decided to say we will support from afar, we will do this and this, but we won't participate in that stuff.
Okay.
Makes sense. This is where we live.
Yeah.
We understand and we respect, and uh, but I left with that. With I met a woman. She originally from Libya, now lives in another country. I won't say where, so I won't expose her.
Yeah.
But she said like we all look alike here, and we have the same problem, but we like also to hate each other. And I think like private organization like that
Yeah.
really can increase. Um, I don't want to say the hate because it's a big word, but when you know a person on a personal note, and
It's harder to hate the person when you
it,
know
it,
them.
it, it's not only it's easier to understand what's the common between you,
Yeah.
and if maybe we cooperated, it will bring to better solution. And really, I hope that we will be able to grow our community, regardless. And we when we did made it even before like all the agreement between other countries, we managed to create a communication and network above like the borders, above the government, in order to empower them, in order to exchange idea, in order to grow ourselves like personally and develop ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think and again, I think it's the future. Like, so I don't like to think about the now,
Yeah.
not because reality, I'm not, I'm not denying the reality, but
But
like, I try to like, okay, we created something for the future because once like it will end, and
yeah.
in my opinion, it will end one day, or at least most of the things.
Yeah.
Um, we will already have like the connection, the relationship, and we'll bring like
Yeah. Well,
the the
we never know what's going to happen. The one thing is that's certain is that the future is uncertain.
yeah.
So, and I mean, I would have guessed 10 years ago, for example, that Israel and Saudi Arabia would be on their way to becoming friends. Now, we can say what we want about Israel, we can say what we want about Saudi Arabia, but no matter where you stand politically or culturally or religious or whatever, you couldn't have imagined 10 years ago that those two countries would be talking today, and would have relations, and that some of their and they're getting more and more aligned, and so and of course there's a lot of issues in the Middle East. There's politics, and soon there's going to be water and other issues, and it's going to take cooperation to address these. Otherwise, it's going to be bad news. Like
and
every
and
yeah.
sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt,
go
but
ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
and the tech industry, and I know about projects that are already there in connecting with like that is already like published
Yeah.
and known, but there is a lot of other projects that you will never see that are trying to resolve them because it is a cooperation between people from countries that are not necessarily have a they don't have a diplomatic relationship, so it's behind the scene. But at the end of the day, the MENA region suffer from very specific challenges in the climate change. And if we want to work together and if we want to use the tech development that we have here and the knowledge that we have here, we will all go down together. So it's either we rise together or either we go down together.
Yeah, that's an important thing. Well, I guess that's one of the reasons why when we just so I declare this to the audience. So Ronnie and I had previously met, and one of the things I liked about our organization is that it's about entrepreneurship. It's about empowerment of basically people with just socially and economically disadvantaged. In this case, it happens to be women, which I think are really well. And then finally, the last thing is this concept of building bridges across society, and I think that's one of the things, which is tech can't build bridges, but the values, and some of the things that we learn together. For example, uh, Ronnie and I, we use common concepts. We both share. We have nothing in common culturally or any of our background. And we both think similarly about a lot of things. And the same can be said for some of these other people in the MENA region. And the same could be said for some people, some guy or some woman in Gujarat, India right now. And that's really unique in the world that people have this common framework to look at problems. And we certainly have enough problems to address. There's plenty of opportunities for us the problems. Well, listen. Thank you so much for your time. What do you think? What is your? I mean, what is the thing? Just one last question. What is the thing you learned that really inspired you while you were doing this? That you learned and you take away from this whole thing? Is there anything like one big lesson or anything like that you can think of? Maybe that's not a fair question.
First of all, there is a lot of good power in the around us, a
Yeah.
lot, much more than we know.
Yeah.
I feel that sometimes, like in the social media extreme way of express ourselves, we only see sometimes the bad and like the cynic or.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of good power, a lot of young people who wants to create a better life for not for themselves, but like for their surrounding.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of innovation. It like sometimes I'm having a bad day or something like that, but then I meet a member of us, or I read an application of a early entrepreneur and see their idea. It really ignites something in you also, and because then you remember you're doing it for a reason and for a very very important one, and I hope we can. all see that. Like I sometimes I talk with people that are very depressed from the future, from the young people or whatsoever, and I always wish like they can all be exposed to this amazing initiative and amazing programs and startups that really trying to take us a step forward
Yeah.
and to build these bridges, as you said, and to create like an innovating future for all of us. And
I think that's great. I think that's great. That one they say is that if you feel bad about now, um, don't just lie down and feel bad. Act, do something. And
yeah,
so I think that's great, and you've taken it to a level that's really incredible. So thank you so much. I want
thank
to make
you.
a make an offer to you. If one of your people launches a product and they get something going, or they have an international product or something, have them come in. I would love to hear
Okay,
about their experience as a MENA woman entrepreneur, and we could talk about their product and well. So please send them my way, and also if you have something newsworthy, let us know and we'll have you back on, and that would be great.
thank you very much.
Okay.
And please invest in MENA. Come visit us. Not only in the famous tech places, there is also great initiatives all over the region. And I will be happy to contact you if you want to have like some tech hubs in the middle of the desert, in North Africa or in other deserts that we have here. We have a lot, and really, really, really
We need
follow us.
we need to give you a third job. You can become a tech ambassador for the region in addition to your work with MENAco and your regular job. We can make you a tech ambassador. Uh,
Yeah, I was just in a tour in Morocco. It was amazing. Like they took us everywhere. Like to see the people, they're like really, really, really coming from so many different background. Some people from also like from Middle Africa that comes to Morocco to learn from there. Like such a great mix. So there is a lot of initiatives, a lot of program. Come to MENA, invest in MENA, learn about MENA. Um, we are the future.
another
This
future.
is where the future is.
Well, listen, it's things are in so many developing economies like India. There's so much innovation coming out of these things, and I think the best thing we can do, all the job growth around the world right now until recently has been in technology and around entrepreneurship. Also, not only is it job growth, but it's good, well-paying. It's jobs that pay much better than a lot of other jobs like we get in construction, restoration, like
Mhm.
that. So I think that's really important that we continue that trend. We have a little bit of headwinds right now in the economy right now, but I'm pretty sure that in a few years this all afterthought. Um, Again, thank you so much for your time,
Thank
and
you very much.
and you have a great rest of your or Thursday. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Oh, that was she's really inspiring. Her project with MENAco is just really impressive. Just on a personal note, years ago, I mentioned this to her. I worked with the Red Cross on a study about how can we help immigrants in California. Most of the immigrants come from Southern and Central America, and it was pretty simple. It just said provide English classes and daycare to women, and women will take care of their community. So the starting with their family and then take care of a larger community. So these efforts that she's doing, MENAco, to build a generation of entrepreneurs in the Middle East and North Africa. These women, they will take care of their children. They will raise kids. Their kids will have great role models, and they'll also invest in their community and become community leaders or actors. That's just so important. Listen, I want to thank you very much all for spending your time with us today. Coming up next Tuesday, we are going to have who are we going to have? We're going to be talking about hiring internationally. This is a big bugaboo for people. So international executive hiring. So And basically, so the do's and don'ts of this. So we're working with Vera Sharova, and we'll be talking about this. And basically, this is scary stuff for a lot of companies. So for any company that you want to hire outside your local region, this is really challenging. The pay culture is different. The work culture is different. The holiday culture doesn't align. So there's just so many challenges. And so we'll talk with Vera about this. Look forward to that conversation. And everybody, please have a great Thursday. And we'll see you next week on Tuesday. All right. Thank you. And I last end. Get in the end. So that's going to be Tuesday, the 22nd. And it's International Success Executive Hiring Do's and Don'ts. And it's Vera Sharova, partner at N2 Group. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.